We do have some time for questions, but I insist questions, not statements. You heard a lot of statements, so please restrict yourself to questions. And when you wish to ask a question, please state your name and the organization that you represent, in case you represent an organization. And you can wish to direct your question to a specific panelist or just to the panel in general. We do have some microphones over there. So who is going to be the first one? We'll start here first, and then over there the second and third.
I'm Stefan Stetter, one of the coordinators of the IEPN, and I have a question to Amit, which probably goes to the. I think you very vividly showed that there needs to be huge exploration exercises in order to find these resources. Is there any discussion you're aware of additional fields which are then located in Lebanese or even Syrian waters? Because that would also change the geopolitical issue at stake. So are you aware of any discussions in that regard?
Well, the Lebanese are advancing in their legislation process, and I hope that next year, despite the political turmoil in Lebanon itself, they'll be able to issue their round of tender, if not next year, so possibly 2014. And I hope for them that they'll find gas for then all use possibly oil. You know, if we were in a neutral world, so Cyprus might have been an excellent place for a hub for exporting gas in an LNG facility. But again, we are down to earth. So at this stage, each country for its own, utilizing its own interest and possibly utilizing the gas for its own domestic uses and possibly for exported LNG on a domestic basis. As I mentioned, Israel possibly collaborating with Cyprus in the future. I didn't mention another geopolitical aspect is the Gaza marine field of the Palestinian Authority, offshore Gaza. I think it was a major mistake by the party not to utilize or develop this field by then. From a purely Israeli point of view, you know, had we had this gas, so we were not in a shortage these days and in the future. And also it's a major benefit, national assets for the Palestinians. Hopefully in the future, the geopolitical and economic conditions will favor the development of this field.
Okay, it's over there.
I pose my question to Mr. Kortweg. Okay. The pessimistic. What would happen if part of the players will finally not discover quantities, measurable quantities of gas, and is it stabilizing or destabilizing of the situation?
Let me see if I understood your. Is this one? Let me see if I understood your question correctly. If they don't find gas, if that's stabilizing, or not. But that's a hypothetical because they have found gas. Oh, if Lebanon and Syria don't find it. I didn't really talk about Lebanon and Syria at length because obviously the exploration is a lot less developed. If they manage to find gas in sufficient quantities, I would argue that it would have a potentially stabilizing influence for their foreign policy. At the same time, it's very relative because the strategic context doesn't necessarily change. And that's what I tried to do in my presentation, is to say, yes, we have these gas finds, but the strategic context is mostly defined by political arguments, not necessarily by the economics. So it wouldn't aggravate the situation. Let me phrase it like that. Now, if they didn't find gas finds, and they might be a little bit frustrated that say everything is in Israeli water and Cypriot waters and nothing is in Lebanese or Syrian waters, that could be a potential issue of concern, especially if maritime boundaries haven't been set. And then I'd like to refer to the presentations that were held this morning, and that's why I also said that one of the key issues is let's not complicate the maritime border discussion or wait too long to solve it. But this is obviously preaching to the crowd because the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs has already said that much already. But yeah.
Okay. There was a question here, gentleman in the black shirt, and then on the corner over there.
My name is Amnon Portugali, and my question is mainly to Jonas Gratz. What about the new gas discoveries coming? For example, Mozambique, and not to mention the shale gas coming from the United States and Canada. They will, most of them go either to Europe or Southeast Asia.
Yes. Shall I? Okay.
Please.
That's what I said, that everyone is looking to Asia these days and saying, okay, the prices are high and so on, but in 5 or 10 years it may not be the case anymore. So, and that's also the Russian response is to build these pipelines and to tie in consumers so that you have invested capital already and are not interested in building LNG terminals or something like that. So that's the answer to this sort of uncertainty that you outlined. But yes, I think we are seeing a glut of gas coming in the next 5 to 10 years, and the problem with this is that the LNG gasification, LNG terminals construction costs are rising steadily and are not collapsing. So you have a certain problem here if the gas price is collapsing, but if these terminal costs are rising. So the outlook is somewhat uncertain. Maybe it will. There will also be a crunch of construction of these terminals, and maybe Israel will use the gas only in the internal market. We don't know. Yeah.
There was a question in the far corner.
Hi, I'm Tal Sadeh, head of the Hartog School of Government and Policy in Tel Aviv University. I'd like to ask gentlemen in the panel, how do they perceive the effects of these energy finds on the prospects of democracy in these countries, especially given the known argument that energy is bad for democracy, especially in poor countries? And to connect it to security, given the theory of the democratic peace.
Anyone volunteer to answer?
I might start. First, it's very important, and we saw just what's happening in Egypt, the allegation of governance and corruption vis-a-vis the gas deal with Israel. All countries need to be very transparent in their bidding processes and activities in this remain. Very important for Israel, very crucial, I would say, for Cyprus as a smaller country and elsewhere to develop and establish a national sovereign funds, that most of the proceeds for the government take are going to be directed to that fund that is going to be very transparently handled. Because as you rightly suggested, many countries, including European countries, sometimes and Western OECD countries, when governments are concerned and private entities are concerned, very important to obey transparent rules of activity, indeed in a way that the benefits will go directly to the pockets of the of the people. Thank you.
Anyone would like to add something to that?
Just a few thoughts. I mean, there are countries that handle the resource wealth quite well, like Norway, for example. So it's crucial, I think, to have watchdogs like media, and to take into account advice from these countries how to set up like sovereign wealth funds, as you said. So I think a Netherlands delegation was already in Israel and gave some advice. So you could also take into account Norwegian advice, and it's crucial because also these investments into the gas fields are made by private, I mean family firms, and it may be, if they are not listed, there may be also issues that these firms are influencing politics in a way which is not always transparent. So these are issues which have to be addressed by the public, and I think Israel is a good start, a good case to start, and in Cyprus you have to also propagate this.
Please.
Just adding to that, I think this question mostly holds for Cyprus and how southern Cyprus deals with northern Cyprus. Is there a viable way to share the wealth that is going to be produced over the next decade or so, or perhaps somewhat longer? And the signals I'm getting aren't very encouraging. That there's a very strong mentality of resisting the willingness to really negotiate a fair wealth sharing agreement with northern Cyprus, and that's a major problem, and it has all the democratic sort of obstacles right there that you mentioned in your question.
We have one more question. Please.
It's not exactly a question.
It's not a question? What is it then? Ambassador, please.
Since I am the ambassador of Cyprus and I heard too much today about the country, a lot of it encouraging, I have to admit. But let me just on this last comment. I did not want to take the floor, but I think that's a bit way off, because it is not the question of sharing the spoils, if we put it this way. It has been included in a statement, in an official statement by the government of the Republic of Cyprus that said to the Turkish Cypriots, let's solve the problem of the division of the island, and so that we can all benefit from this blessing to our country. Now, because I heard a lot of stuff, let me just say, Cyprus has done everything according to international law, from the campaign to delimitate our exclusive economic zone, to all the right moves, and to our cooperation with all the countries in the area, and that includes Lebanon, that includes Israel, and that includes Egypt. And we wish that it would include Turkey. Of course, some of the Turkish legal, quote-unquote, arguments about the whole issue of our exclusive economic zone, I am afraid that they simply don't stand up to what is accepted in international law. We hope and we want to see, as Republic of Cyprus, progress in the cooperation with Turkey, and that includes within the European Union. We have stated many a time that Cyprus supports, for example, Turkish enlargement, Turkish accession to the European Union, provided, of course, that this country behaves as it should and recognizes the Republic of Cyprus. You cannot talk of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus and President Erdogan, for example, and then say the Greek Cypriot administration. I mean, I think we should all be more serious in this issue, and we should sit down and look for a solution. And believe me, everyone on the island will benefit. The whole issue of water versus gas, and this is the last point, I could go on and on and on. I mean, that is, I think, something that allow me not to comment on as a sort of gesture from the Republic of Turkey. We should sit with Turkey. Turkey has to talk with us. Let's sit down. One, solve the problem for the benefit of all the people of Cyprus and only the people of Cyprus. And this has always been the problem that we've had with Turkey. And second, let's see, because there are many good ways for everyone to benefit. And that includes Cyprus, that includes Israel, that includes Egypt, Lebanon, and Turkey in the final analysis from this blessing. But we have to talk.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you. I would like to thank the 4 panelists, and on behalf of the organizers, to let you know that we will convene here in 1 hour exactly, 1:45. Thank you.